Man, there's a ton of stuff to be excited for in this video. A new Overwatch short story dropped today, and it is incredible. Forget everything you ever thought about the Overwatch lore beforehand, because this sets an entirely new bar. Of course, with Blizzard stuff, it's always a little campy, but as long as it's done right, that's enjoyable and endearing, and this you don't want to miss. I want to tell you guys so much about the story that comes in this, but I'm going to try not to spoil anything. It's only like 20 odd pages long. Go read it for yourself, because in my opinion, it blows all the other Overwatch lore out of the water. Perhaps even more importantly is that Blizzard seems to be heavily hinting that this is the new hero. I present to you Mauga, which I used to think Doomfist was the coolest character in Talon. Mauga is awesome and really fleshed out. And inside the story, they give a lot of clues to what his gameplay could be like. Story-wise, he has a really interesting relationship with Baptiste. And where the story kicks off is 4 years after Baptiste's departure, with Talon hunting him down, because just like in the Mafia, you don't leave the life. Retiring isn't an option. So there's this pretty severe conflict between Baptiste and Mauga, but at the same time, they're good friends and kind of bring the best out of each other. Well, in some ways. Mauga inspired Baptiste to be a little bit more ruthless and bloodthirsty, and it was said in the story that Baptiste was the only person who really could calm Mauga down. I bring that up because it's really important. We'll get into some basics first though. As if it wasn't abundantly clear just by his physique alone, Mauga is a tank. But even more so, it seems like he's the inverse version of Reinhardt. Where they're similar in a lot of ways, he's kind of evil Rein, where his character is boisterous, gregarious, and other 3-syllable words I learned in English class, but he also is unethical and savage. Where Baptiste is very reluctant to do harm in almost like a Batman-esque way, Mauga is a savage killer and seems to kind of get off on the violence. Now, they went at great lengths to reference his weaponry and sort of what his playstyle might be throughout the story, constantly referring to him using his massive strength to dual-wield machine guns. Machine guns that are so big, packing so much heat, he has a backpack of coolant to cool them down. Kind of a clue to the rage mechanic that I'm gonna get to in a sec. But also they give clues that Mauga would likely be a main tank, because he has a barrier that he projects out, and based on the context clues of what they said in the story, it seems like people were able to push up with him, kind of in a Reinhardt-y way, so maybe he deploys it around him and it's in a different kind of shape to Reinhardt, but requires you to be a bit closer, so maybe it's smaller or angled, curved in a way, perhaps not exactly like Orisa, but maybe boxier shaped. And there was a line that I'm not sure how to interpret, because it said a bullet ricocheted off of the shield. Now the thing is, when gameplay elements are put into stories like this, sometimes things are just played up for dramatic effect, right? So I suppose maybe if it was exactly like Reinhardt's barrier, maybe it would have absorbed the shot. Or perhaps we're all just overthinking it and there is no reflection mechanic. That seems a little OP if he just walks around with Genji's reflect all the time. I kind of just assume it's more like a normal barrier. It's just not very clear how it deploys and how it's movable, because we have Winston and Orisa who place barriers down. Reinhardt can move one. Hammond has a personal barrier that only protects himself. That selfish hamster. But in the story, there was references to the barrier projecting outward, so maybe it's like a part of his suit, but they also called it a shield, so maybe he just holds it up like the Riot shield Brigitte has, or the shield that Reinhardt has. It's unclear exactly where this lands, but most definitely he's got 2 guns, and sometimes he holds up a barrier and shoots at the same time, which you already know is incredibly strong with Orisa, so maybe it's somewhere in between the two of them. Now, the thing that excites me most is with his personality, because if you pay close attention, everything about Overwatch characters is chosen precisely to fit that character. They want to create these powerful character archetypes where through gameplay and their expressions of who they are, down to what they wear, what they look like, what their gun feels like, all of that kind of goes in sync with who they are as a person. And we've really never had a new character be released or be announced and talked about in depth like this before, because usually it's like a side character who's in between the hero release, sort of hinting towards what the hero's actually going to be, whereas I'm pretty darn confident this is the hero. They fleshed him out way too much, like pages and pages of who this guy is. So let me get to the rage mechanic. If you've played a lot of other Blizzard games, or just other games with RPG elements in general, there's an idea of enrage, where maybe you gain more attack damage or attack speed or move speed or a combination of both at the expense of maybe taking more damage or taking personal damage, as simple as maybe the StarCraft Marine uses a stim pack to hurt themselves but shoot faster. Shamans in Warcraft would cast Enrage on a teammate, making them attack faster. It also could be called Berserk, shows up in a lot of games as well, which usually means it has a drawback, right? Where you're more savage, but also, it's a risk. And I'm really getting that kind of vibe with Mauga here, because he's described to be quite a hothead, even though he's kind of cordial and friendly with Baptiste. When Baptiste is around, they're kind of able to equalize each other a bit. Granted, the evil Talon part of him takes over for the majority of the story, but it seems like he's just drawn to that chaos and evil, even if he's otherwise kind of a likable guy. But at times when he pops off, I mean, he pops off. He goes 0 to 100 real quick, which makes me think he probably has a Enrage, Berserk, that kind of thing. Maybe he deals more damage when he's at low health. Maybe he activates the ability himself, and maybe this Enrage thing isn't even for him. Maybe it's like an aura he gives to his teammates or something that he casts on them, because there's multiple lines in the story where Baptiste kind of felt drawn into the frenzy. There's another word for it. Brought into the frenzy of the aggression he emits, right? He reminds me a lot of for another campy reference here, but in Fast the Furious, Vin Diesel's character is kind of that way too, right? He's a criminal and a bad guy, but he's really cool and cares a lot about his family and people close to him, so you still feel for him even though he's not a good person. Mauga is very much that way, and perhaps that literally is an ability that not only happens with Baptiste, a good friend of his, but other heroes in the Overwatch gameplay who will feel kind of the bloodlust when they're around him, because he just sort of brings that energy out of you. Either way, the guy is a mean killing machine, and when he gets into the zone of causing chaos and destruction, he just gets sucked in completely. So overall, design-wise, I'm expecting it to be something similar like Reinhardt and the TF2 Heavy put together, which I guess to some degree might feel like Orisa, but whereas she's fully defensive, it feels like this guy is going to be offensive. Really crazy stuff. I tried my best not to give anything of the story away, but still talk about everything. I hope I didn't spoil it for you. A lot of that stuff I think you can kind of get through the context anyway, but what actually happens in the story is pretty cool, so you want to go check it out. Now, along with this lore drop as well, we did get some new Baptiste skins, which it seems very likely that they'll do the same thing they did with the Anna Bastet short story, where they have a mini event where you play to get those cosmetic items. They usually update on Tuesday, and since they're releasing this on a Monday, it very well could be just tomorrow where you'll have a week or two to just win games and unlock them. So we'll keep you posted on that. With Overwatch being around so long, I never thought I would fall in love with a brand new character, but Blizzard did such a good job introducing this guy and setting up hints for who he might be, as well as really fleshing out his character, that I'm fully on board. Please, more of this. This is exactly the type of lore that we want from you, Blizzard. Make more of that. With new hero hints alongside it, we're all on board. Hype, hype, hype. 2019 is a big year, guys. I've been telling you, they're fixing everything. That's gonna be it for me. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave it a like. It really does help us out. Lets us know that you're enjoying the content. And if you haven't already, please subscribe and be sure to hit the bell icon so that you get notified when our videos go live. Link to the description is our Twitter. We tweet out news updates and dank memes. That's been it for me. I've been FREEDO for your Overwatch. See you guys next time.